Adath Israel Executive Director Phil David. Happy Chanukah.
Happy Chanukah, Senior Rabbi Adam Cutler. How you doing?
I'm doing fairly well today. How are you doing today?
I'm doing fairly well. I'm really excited because we get to have a banter today, and we're going to ask each other some questions about Hanukkah.
This is true, and I always enjoy a good banter, especially with you, Adath Israel Executive Director Phil David.
Thank you, Senior Rabbi. I can't wait. Do you want to start with the questions today?
I would love to start with a question. So my first question to you is, what is your most favorite gift that you've ever received for Hanukkah?
My favorite gift. So I have to go back to the early 70s when I was less than 10 years old. I won't tell my age. My parents bought me, because they knew I liked hockey, road hockey, they bought me a pair of goalie gloves. And not only, I asked for player gloves, but they bought me goalie gloves. And so that forced me into playing goal in road hockey. Interestingly, they bought me the wrong hands. So I was supposed to catch like this, but I caught like this. And it actually started a love of goaltending and a love of hockey. And I've been involved in hockey every year since I was 8 years old. And we're going on almost 50 years now. So it's
kind of like the hockey sweater, except with hockey gloves and the wrong hand rather than the wrong team.
That's correct, and not as emotional, but I am a huge Montreal Canadiens fan. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yes, would you like me to ask you a question?
I would be thrilled to receive a question from you.
So I'm very interested to understand, you're both a rabbi and a dad of 3 children. Help me understand what it's like celebrating Hanukkah as a senior rabbi of a large congregation, but also as a dad of 3 kids who may not quite get that you're a senior rabbi of a large congregation.
Well, I think the experience in some ways is the same, in some ways different. Seeing the Chanukah lit in shul, just like seeing the Chanukah lit in my windowsill. With the shul as a whole, I'm trying to get everyone just excited and ready to go and see the lights and just be uplifted by the festival. And at home, Deborah does most of the work for Hanukkah, so that's great. I honestly have no idea what presents the kids are getting which night because I didn't buy them. And I can just really enjoy being with my kids. But as I say, particularly on the first night of Hanukkah, standing there with our 4 Chanukiot lit and then a wooden one for Annie, it was just really special. And I didn't have the shul in mind. I just was looking at the candles, looking at my kids and just remembering how fortunate I am. So definitely a different experience from one to the other.
And can I ask you, this is for all of us, our first experience celebrating Hanukkah under COVID. What's that like for you as a rabbi, especially if you're looking at it to almost an empty sanctuary?
Well, the empty sanctuary is something we've been getting used to. The COVID Hanukkah opened up new doors. We had the spectacular program this past Sunday with the fire guy, and he just blew my mind. I was so thrilled with it. And I like just the opportunities when we can grab them. COVID is so awful. And if we can get something different that is also positive from it, we should just be really thankful for that.
Excellent. All right, I'm ready for your next question.
What is your favorite Hanukkah memory?
I have a Hanukkah memory that's also somewhat Christmas related. Many people may know I grew up in Sydney, Nova Scotia, in Cape Breton, where there was a very small Jewish community. Most of the stores on our street were Jewish owned, including my dad's. My dad had a deli. And every year, the week before Christmas and around Hanukkah time, many people from around the city would order fruit baskets. And my mother would make fruit baskets and I would deliver them throughout the city. But the most important ones for me were the ones that I was delivering to the Jewish houses because it gave me a chance to meet all these people and talk to them. As a kid, I was 15, 16 years old. My dad would drive me, then I got my license. And it gave me a chance to really engage with them at a level I couldn't do when I was actually at synagogue. And it was really important to me. And as I look back and reflect, really my first step in relational Judaism and engaging with our congregation at a level that I just didn't understand when I was much younger.
Very nice.
Good.
Very nice.
So I have one more question for you. Do you mind if I ask it now?
I'd be happy to hear it.
Do we have enough time?
I think so.
Okay, so I don't know if many of our congregants know that Rabbi Cutler is a very well-educated man and has a lot of extremely important knowledge. The most important lately during Hanukkah is the understanding that latkes, which I thought was a very traditional food that goes back for centuries, is relatively new. So I'd love to understand how you want to share information about the traditional foods of Hanukkah that are a little bit older than what latkes represents.
That is an excellently formulated question, Executive Director Phil David. Latkes are fairly new to the Jewish palate for Hanukkah, although we think of them as being very old.
Yeah.
Potatoes, of course, did not exist outside of the Americas until after Christopher Columbus. And Jews were eating special Hanukkah foods well before then. Oil, of course, is one of the keys here, but so is dairy. The story of Judith, who was able to cause the general Holofernes to sleep because she gave him salted cheese, which also caused him to drink some wine, ultimately became wound up with the Hanukkah story. Maybe she was a relative of the Maccabees, even though she existed centuries before. And so since Judith was able to lure him with dairy, with cheese, the original tradition was to make cheese and to eat lots of cheese and maybe even cheese pancakes. And those cheese pancakes are what turned ultimately into the latkes that we know today, made out of potato. Now, especially for our ancestors who lived in Northern Europe, the medium that they used for frying was often schmaltz. And since they couldn't use the schmaltz and the dairy at the same time, the cheese pancakes lost the dairy and stuck basically with a potato and some onion. Sufganiyot, though, also fried in oil, they didn't really come about in popularity until maybe 100 years ago, maybe not even, in the pre-state Israel, because the bakers were looking for something to sell on Hanukkah that they could make money off of. Any schmo can make a latke. You have to be really good to make a good sufganiyah. And boy, are they good.
So I want everyone to know this was not rehearsed. You clearly have given this answer before. Was this an exam question when you were going to rabbi school?
No, there were no food courses when I was at rabbi school. This is my own reading on my own time.
I am very impressed by that answer. I wish I didn't know that. And now the whole congregation can understand more about traditional foods and that anybody can make a latkes, except for me. So I'm going to go learn.
Tune in next time for more of the Rabbi Cutler, Phil David, Executive Director Extraordinaire banter, back and forth show at your favorite shul, Adat Israel congregation. Wishing all of you, from all of us, a very wonderful and happy Hanukkah, Chag Urim v'Sameach, and a wonderful, happy, sweet, and healthy New Year.
Ditto to that. Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you, Executive Director.